big move that could be the beginning of a massive student loan forgiveness program by President Obama, and it could cost taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars, send tuitions even higher, and maybe, just maybe, buy the White House for the next Democratic nominee. The process has begun. This morning, Education Secretary Arne Duncan announced that the administration is developing a process that will allow students who took out loans to attend a now bankrupt Corinthian colleges full forgiveness. It's estimated this is going to cost taxpayers $3.5 billion, but I got to tell you something, that is a tiny sum. I want you to take a look at what's actually looming. Of the $1.3 trillion in student loan debt outstanding, we are on the hook for $800 billion. When President Obama came into office, it was less than $100 billion. By the way, everyone's going to be involved. Remember, the president launched the student loan program. It's working for him, not working for us. And this whole thing in my mind is just a bald-faced attempt to buy votes, even at the expense of a lot of people who didn't go to college. You didn't go to college, so what? If you're paying taxes, you're on the hook too. I guess it's the definition of fair. Now, here's the key, and I think this is what we're going to look back on now that we've opened Pandora's box. Remember, they're developing a process. Now, there's no doubt this is going to be the mechanism that's used to forgive non-for-profit loans, schools, even Ivy League schools. That's going to be the key, and it will be used, and it will win elections. All right, guys, this is huge, huge news. I mean, President Obama's been hinting at this, talking about it. He's tried a few things here and there. Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Payne. You're watching Making Money. Let's meet the investment pros. Jim Awat's with us, Plimsoll Mark Capital Managing Director. Chris Versace. He's the growth and dividend report editor. Susan Sullivan's back with us, our small business expert. Matt McCall, founder and president of Payne Financial Group. And Joni Courtney, Monster Worldwide Senior Vice President. Guys, let's dig into the first real deal. All right, Joni, again, you know, initially when you look at this, it seems like just another thing along the lines of some of the things we've seen from the administration and some of the rhetoric we heard that. But when I see that they're developing a system, a mechanism to make it possible to forgive loans. Now, this is from Corinthian colleges. It's bad. It's evil. It's mean. It's a publicly traded company. They dupe these kids. But once that mechanism is in place, they could use it for anything in my mind.
Right. You know, there's a few points around this that are very concerning. You know, you talked about, first of all, overall student debt is at, an all-time high. It's twice what it was from a decade ago, being at $1.3 trillion. So this process that they're putting in place really concerns me, because it's not like if you were to buy a bad car or buy a bad house, the government isn't going to bail you out. Now, I realize that the Corinthian colleges, they weren't managed well. They spent all their money on marketing and recruitment and not really on the institution and the education. But why is the government bailing them out? I feel bad for the students, but this just doesn't
That's the modus
seem like
operandi.
the right thing to do.
You pick the right culprit. In this case, it's a publicly traded Wall Street corporate villain, and you use that as a Trojan horse in my mind, Matt. And now you've got the mechanisms in place. And if you want to buy an election, imagine a year from now saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and take all the student loan forgiveness for kids who live in this state or went to this particular school or whatever. From here, there's no limit in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, okay, any kid who took basket weaving, we're gonna give him his money back because he or she can't get a job. I'm more concerned about getting a seat at the bar at Del Frisco's after the show than I'm about student loan debt, to be honest with you.
$1.3 trillion doesn't scare you.
It doesn't scare me because the average, or the percentage that comes out of your monthly income that goes towards student debt is your student loan is 4%. Mortgages is 36% in 2007. The average loan, $25,000 versus $93,000 mortgage 2007. And you can't walk away from student debt. You can walk away from a house and foreclose on it.
I think you just, though, kind of rebutted yourself in a little bit, because not being able to walk away, you can't, Chris, these kids, these millennials are saying, I can't ever get to the mortgage.
But if you can't get 4% of your income to pay for it, there's a big
issue there, though, is where is the income? Because these kids are, as
the kids with college degrees are the ones getting jobs. The unemployment rate's basically fully employed.
We have talked about this time and time again, about millennials living at home with their parents. They can't find jobs. Okay, so I think this is a bigger issue, Charles. Imagine this. Obama is saying, you know what? I didn't create any jobs. I need to help these kids out. That's really what we're saying when you think about it, isn't it?
Well, to me, what it's saying is that listen, you were duped by the system. You got a degree that doesn't work in this particular workplace. I'm going to come to your rescue again. It was no fault of your own. That line will be used again. They'll break it out in case of emergency. Break out this line. No fault of your own, Susan. But I do think that I do, first of all, think $1.3 trillion is a lot of money, particularly the $800 billion that's on the taxpayer dime. And I do think it's an issue that's holding back this economy.
Well, I think it's bad for the economy. I think it's bad for our culture, because what are we doing? This is just more of our entitlement economy. What are we teaching young people? Oh, whoops, this didn't work out. Darn, somebody's going to come take care of me and fix it for me. And that's what they're going to be expecting in their entire lives. Somebody's going to take care of it.
If someone took care of it for you, would you vote for him?
Well,
again, if you were 20 years old, 22, let's say you're 22, living at home with mom, and for whatever reason you don't have, 4% may not, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if it's 100% of nothing because you're not making any money,
right,
you're going to say this person was a hero.
Sure. I mean, you would take it. Of course you would, right? But I don't think that person is a hero. All they're doing is making a bad situation very much worse. And I'd like to also say about that college, the federal government was investigating the college. So in essence, our federal money, our taxpayer money, was fueling the fraud and lining the pockets of the executives there while we were footing the bill.
Well, there were some things that happened, though, when Obama came into office that hurt the for-profit businesses. So if they had a little bit of a weakness, that actually probably was a stake to the heart. Now, Jim, and I know things probably different when you went to college. They probably made you wrestle a bear, go into the woods. They said, if you bring back 2 pelts, you can get in. So you probably never had to deal with this.
Well, I put 4 kids through college.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about you for yourself.
Let me tell you how this is going to undermine the educational system. Why would I write a check for my child's college as a full-paid parent if I could get that child to take a loan that I knew they wouldn't have to repay? So they're going to undermine the whole private education system if they go down this path very far.
I think that's a great point, yes, Jim, because I think parents will look at it differently. We have, a lot of parents are just writing a check for college, and they're not going to do that.
And also, this is a society where you make a decision and you benefit from the rewards or suffer from the problems if your decision is wrong. And that's why people start companies and have done great things.
Right.
If you now insulate
the people who go to college, if you have a college degree and you have a student loan debt, you have 11% higher chance of owning a home at 30 years old. And so, I mean, you can say, yes, you're going to take $25,000 of debt, but you're going to make so much more back in the future. And we're all assuming that the government's going to jump in and bail these people out. They're not going to bail them out. We're going to bail ourselves out. We're Americans. We're going to get jobs.
But whatever happened?
I have to say that I think the bigger problem here is something you touched on, Charles, and so did you, which is it fosters this notion of a lack of responsibility. And I think it's something that we've seen that's been growing and growing. And what scares me is it's almost as if, don't worry, we know you can't take care of yourself. Let the government do it.
And whatever happened to working your way through college? I worked 3 jobs my entire college career. I got scholarships. I applied for everything I could do. I wanted to be able to be independent and pay for my own degree.
Student loans. I did both. I took student loans and worked. You can't work and pay $30,000 a year. I mean, in college, you work as much as you can. You take the student loan and you pay it back. That's just a great America.
Whatever the
you went to a better college than I did.
We do hear that one of the number one things that millennials are saying that's holding them back are these student loans. And we know that President Obama has, anytime he talks in front of high schoolers or college kids, he always hints or intimates that he's going to do something about it. Now, there have been several programs. Remember, during the bailout, the government bought $195 billion worth of student loans from the private sector, kicked them out of the way, and all of a sudden we go from $100 billion to $800 billion. I don't know, Matt, that to me sounds like a ticking time bomb, because this kind of stuff, tuition's not going to curb itself. If they're just giving out money, tuition's going to go up, risk is going to go up, and at some point that hits the fan.
If you were right and it goes in a trajectory, and then the government does bail it out, I'm going to agree with everybody here in the panel. You're exactly right. It's terrible for the country. It's terrible for everything. I just don't believe we're going to get to the point where we're going to have to bail it out unless they're pulling the rug out from under us and trying to do an election move like you talked about.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I sat on the board of trustees of a college for several years, and there's a lot of fraud when it comes to those government loans like that. Kids get those loans, they go out, they spend it on other things, they don't go to class, and they don't graduate. So a lot of money is going out just for nothing.
All right, guys.